Yo, what is going on, Guardians? PowerGPU here. Today, Bungie officially released the beta recommendations, which the beta is going to be held on early access August 28th. Open beta will be the 29th, and the beta ends on the 31st. So only about 4 days if you pre-ordered the game, which kind of stinks, but it kind of makes sense because very next week is going to be the release of Destiny 2 on consoles, so they probably have a lot of work ahead of them as well. Now, scrolling down here, as you guys can see, recommended specs for the beta is going to be a Core i5 2nd gen, which is pretty old. I'm actually kind of surprised, but yeah, 2nd gen. AMD Ryzen 5 1600X, which is actually a pretty big difference in performance leaping from Intel to AMD, so I'm not sure what is going on there. That's kind of strange, because the Ryzen 5 is the newest generation when it comes to AMD, but the Core i5 2nd gen is pretty old, so that's kind of odd there. Moving on to the GPU itself, it says GTX 970 or an AMD Radeon R9 390, which if you're in the PC world, you would understand that if you have an R9 what was it, the 290 back in the day, it's actually a 390. It's just pretty much rebranded and boosted up on the core clocks and memory bandwidth, so on and so forth. So if you have an R9 290, you'll be perfectly fine. And if you have an older GTX, I would say 680 as well, is pretty much a GTX 970 performance. So it's very similar between the two cards. Moving on down, the RAM, looking at 8 gigs of RAM, that's about the average for a lot of PC gamers out there. Going into the minimum, it's using a Core i3 3rd gen 3250 and an AMD FX 4350, which again, these are pretty old. The FX 4350 is about 3 years old now, if not more. GPU wise, you're looking at the GTX 660 with 2 gigs of VRAM and the AMD Radeon 7850, which again, these are extremely old video cards. So the good thing here is what we can see is that they actually optimize this game pretty heavily. If this is the case, if they're saying minimum, recommendations, if you're running at low settings and you're achieving anywhere from 50 to 60 FPS, I'd probably say they're probably saying 30 FPS to be playable. That looks really good from so far of what I've seen. Scrolling down here, if you go down here, which by the way, guys, is going to be a short video, but if you go down here, it says if you're upgrading, here's hardware that's available today and runs the game well. So recommended here we have CPU with the build pretty much i5 7400 with the GTX 1060. So this is recommended for current gen, so most likely they're talking about 1920 by 1080 to achieve most likely 60 FPS, which I would definitely assume a GTX 1060 will definitely be able to do that with the Core i5. Minimum, we're looking at an Intel Pentium G with the GPU GTX 1050. Now, this is where it gets kind of strange to me. I don't understand what the difference is between upgrading your PC or recommended specs, because it's a pretty big difference. Recommended specs, you're on pretty much upgrading. You look at a GTX 1060, but then recommended specs, if you're planning to build a computer, this is very weird. They should have just made it recommended and minimum, and that's it. Not if you're planning to upgrade, because this just makes no sense at all, because the recommended to me is going to be the same on both sides. So this was very weird on Bungie's side. If somebody could explain to me why they did this, it'd be highly appreciated. But then you're looking at minimum specs for, an i3 or FX series to an Intel Pentium G series, which those are like $60 processors. I mean, these are like dual cores, and I mean, some are in single core series, but the G4560 is a dual core processor. So again, big difference in performance. FX 4350 is a quad core, which technically it's a dual core with hyperthreading, and a Core i3 is the same way, dual core with hyperthreading. So I don't know, they kind of messed up there. I'm gonna say this: go based off of the first one right here. Just go based off this. I would not go based off this. This is really, really weird there. GPU, it says minimum GTX 1050. Again, minimum. They're comparing a GTX 1050 to pretty much, if you built your computer right now, a GTX 660 or a 7850. Big difference again in performance. So again, it's very strange. I'm not going to go based off this. I would go based off what they're recommending. Most likely, this is what they're going to be for the final version, if you're building a PC. And then at the event, of course, a lot of us already knew this, but at the event, they were using the Intel Core i7 7700K with the NVIDIA GTX 1080 Ti with 11 gigs of VRAM. Now again, this was for 4K. That we're running 3860 by 21 or 3880 by 2160 resolution for 4K. So if you're planning to run 4K with high-ish settings, is what they said, high-ish, this would be what you want to get right here. GTX 1080. The processor does not matter. Literally, you can run an i5 with 4K with a GTX 1080 Ti, and it will not bottleneck your CPU based off of it being at 4K resolution, because the higher resolution you go, the less CPU intense it gets. It brings down your CPU usage, uses more of your GPU. Now, unless you're streaming. If you're planning to stream, definitely go with like a RYZEN or something with at least 6-core, 12 threads. It'll help out tremendously. Again, I just wanted to make this a quick video for you guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button. Definitely hit that subscribe button. Share this with everyone out there that is trying to build a PC as well. And if you have any more questions or anything like that, let me know. There's a Discord at the bottom below. Go ahead and hit that Discord link. Definitely join the light there. We have a lot of members in there that would love to help, everyone out in Destiny. If you have any questions, I'll be in there all the time. If you just post a question, I'll try to answer it as immediately, as fast as possible. So that's pretty much it, guys. I will see you Guardians out there in the universe. Have a good night.